You have a 1.5-inch thick front edge there. You have a 4-inch backsplash. You have a slight gap right there that's holding it out from the wall, and I think I'll trip on this 4 more times before class is over, if I can even get back to my slide. I don't always know what I'm doing. Yeah. Very common right there. If you notice that, usually they have a cap piece that you'll iron on right here on this end, but there's always a void right here, and it's basically hot glued on by the time you iron it. A lot of people will cut that, can't even point at nothing. A lot of people will cut off that backsplash and then remove it. Then you have to cut filler strips and fill this, right? It's a big pain in the ass. Then you have to cut along here because you definitely have some different paint right here, so you got to cut your paint in and everything too, right? You got to do something to deal with it. Has anyone ever removed Formica countertops? How long did it take you guys? Yeah, exactly. You never want to reuse that shit. So. Exactly. And have you ever took 40 minutes, 30 minutes, taken one out, ever? Right. But have you ever had a hard time? Is there anybody else in here that's removed them? Have you ever had a hard time taking it out more than 30 minutes? Never, right? Pop your top drawers off. There's corner screws going up into corner blocks. Pull those screws out. Obviously, just removing the drawers just to give you access with a screw gun, an impact or whatever to reach the screws. Remove your top, pop your seams in the middle. I usually start picking it up as I get the corner blocks unscrewed. I'll even slide something up underneath there, put some weight back to sink it. It'll pull my corner up, hit the corner with a hammer where you'll see the mitered seam in the corner, pop the draw bolts loose, and you can usually remove an average countertop in about 15 minutes. Usually the majority of that time is spent shutting your sink off, making sure your angle stops aren't leaking, which is, they always leak, right? So you're dealing with a cap, trying to take your faucet off, reattach it. I've done that, tape it down, throw it in a faucet as a secondary valve or something like that if I know my faucet's not leaking. There's a lot of little tricks. I'm not here to teach you plumbing, but be careful. If you want to end a business, fuck up water, fire, anything like that. That's a business ending right there from a little lack of attention. So pop these out, and this is the only reason I recommend this is because of your perceived value. I fully believe that what matters more in business is what the customer perceives as valuable more than what the actual cost is. Did anybody bid? Who's a contractor in this room right now of some sort? Bids jobs. Who's heard to figure out what your materials are? Oh, you have $800 in materials. It should be about a $1,600 job. Have you ever heard all these formulas people give? I think that's a bunch of bullshit. My customer doesn't need to know how much I pay for product and how much I paid for my labor and how much I paid for paint and drywall and anything else. That's up to me to know. Maybe I have deals because I do a ton of work. It's not your customer that did a ton of work through a supplier, right? If you're a diamond coat dealer, is it their business if you get a 40% discount? It's not their business. They don't need to know that. They shouldn't even know what your base price is without a discount. So perception of value is everything. I ran a home show, and of course I was working my ass off, as always. I never had a ton of time to set it up. I built framed-in full walls, and I had one guy in town, and I didn't figure out till later why he tried to compete with me so much. It was because he was a loser, if you're watching on the live TVs right now. He wanted to run a countertop shop and give it to his daughter. That's actually really amazing. That's something I would want to do. But he's the most dishonest fuck I ever met. He went on Jobs of Mine, said I was his stepson, told him I was a worker that had quit. Every lie you could ever tell, he would tell it to try to get me to lose jobs. He'd go target all my contractors that I worked with, any building owners, commercial guys, and I was always getting calls back on guys that were calling me saying, hey, Levi, you got Jim again saying you worked for him and you're trying to steal a job from him. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. It was just what it was. Then he'd show up at the home show. He owned a very large tile, granite, and carpet store. He owned 2 of them. And I thought, man, how are you intimidated by me? I'm an installer. I go in these stores and install their products. So how could you hate me? And he went out of his way every time. And his home shows were always 4 or 5 booths. You know, they could park a Camaro there if they wanted to, let a hot tub sit in the corner. They always went overboard on every time they did a show. They never did it half-ass. A little intimidating when you show up with a budget and you're going to compete with him. He kept not showing up one year to the home show, and I'm building out my booth, and I'm like, I cannot believe Jim's not going to be here. He went from being the biggest, probably most professional-looking display every year as long as I could remember to not even having a display. So I was like, what the hell is going to happen? He wanted to wait to see where I was putting my booth so he could put his booth across the way. He called people, had people move shit for him because he had friends with everybody. and put his booth across the way, and it was really professional looking. One of his displays for countertops was a long piece of Formica, just about like this, and he had done, does anybody know, and I will not shit talk companies or products because it's just different tools. Anybody ever heard of iCoat or Granocrete? That's amazing. Is anybody from planet Earth? I'm just kidding. Do you know what a microfiber overlay is, like a concrete troweled overlay for a countertop? Anybody hear of that? See those? Well, he owned a distributorship for the biggest company that does that in the US. So he went in, and the way you would do that is you would take and brush a bond coat that's a real watery version of their countertop blend. You'd brush that on, let it dry. That's a dry polymer that's mixed with water. It would kind of stick to the countertop. Then you would go and trowel a coat on. Then he would run a decorative like a figure 8 overlay. He'd rub brick it. He'd spray water on it for his colors, get his colors down, and then he'd seal it with epoxy. All I did was put my colors in my epoxy and pour the whole piece. He had a piece at the very front of his whole display the next day when he showed up at the home show, and it looked really amazing, and I was intimidated when I saw his whole setup. He had amazing signage, everything you wanted. And his piece showed raw Formica, just a bond coat, all super clean lines, like a non-decorative trowel coat. He did a nice figure 8. He rub bricked it. He water stained it with his watercolors, and then sealed it with epoxy. And it was like 8 steps, super organized, so he could show his customer what he was doing in the house. 2 nights before the home show, I probably stayed up till 1 or 2 in the morning, and I built a countertop of an island I'd pulled off that was Formica. I wanted to do something for my table cap, and it wasn't the exact right size, but it kind of worked okay. And I was like, dude, I do not have time to even set up my home show, let alone build this. So I poured a bunch of epoxy. I ran some veins. They turned out kind of cool, but it wasn't anything to write home to mom about. I threw that on my table across the way, and then I see his setup, and I was like, holy shit, this sucks. Every single customer came to me and said, do you see how simple that looks across the hallway? Dude, I could do that myself. I'm not paying somebody, I think it was $28 a square foot to do what he's doing. And he was like, you just got to come out and do countertops. I was bidding everything at $55 a square foot. We left that home show, if my memory recalls, it was 68 or 72 bids that we left with. And he was bragging about 12 bids because he knew there was no way we could have any. He had 12 bids he was bragging about. Oh, and Saturday was the biggest day, and we skipped Saturday. We actually donated it to Habitat for Humanity all day Saturday. So we were only there Friday and Sunday. And we had 68 or 72 bids. So to think about that, nothing really happened there except the perception of value. He over-explained something to his customers, and he had something that was very easily to be viewable as Formica. Everybody knew that's a fucking cheap countertop. I don't care how you paint it, how pretty it is. Has anyone seen the spray tile stuff? You spray right over a tile countertop, tile backsplash, shower surround, whatever. We talked to a lot of crews, and a lot of them are looking from $500 to $1,000 a day of what they want to make. And they're done, that's a whole house start to finish. I cannot imagine the risk you're buying. If you're making $500 profit on a house, what do you think the risk is when you're spraying a kitchen counter and a backsplash around water, possible overspray onto windows and everything like that, cabinets? The million things you guys know that can happen, such as a cat that was out of your control that you didn't even know existed in the house might walk on the countertops. You might push a large overhead and a ton of jobs through and have a gross income that looks pretty good, but I guarantee your net and your risk is really bad. So when I'm teaching, just my own perspective is, can you make Formica look cool? Fuck yeah. Do you walk in and you see if you're bidding for $55 a square foot and somebody sees it and says, what the hell did you pay $55 a square foot for somebody to paint over your Formica? To me, you have a perception of value issue right there with your customer. So then you have people saying, well, I dropped my price. I'm only 28 bucks a square foot when I do over Formica, or $30 a square foot when I pour over Formica. I don't really care what you are. You still just poured over Formica. You took all your perceived value away that you ever could have had, and now you're competing with guys that, well, it doesn't have a pattern, but I spray it, it's faster, I'm less invasive, and I only want $1,000 for the job. Does that make sense? And that's not the market you want to be in. If I just wanted to sell you epoxy, I could easily just teach you how to do this and knock out a ton of jobs at 30 bucks a square foot. I would rather sell less product, though, and have a higher perceived value, because I don't want you guys going home and pushing out a bunch of work, buying a bunch of product, but not succeeding. I believe the biggest problem you can have as a contractor is to undervalue yourself, and that's because if you don't have enough money on the job, you cannot make a conscientious decision if something bad happens. Has anyone ever been on a job when something bad happens? Have you ever been fucking stressed? Did you have enough money to make the right choice? But you have to know when there's a non-profitable contractor and they have kids to feed, you see a lot of shit happen, and nobody holds a customer accountable for just ripping off some young guy. but they'll always hold them accountable to make the job look like granite or marble, even though they gave them Formica to work with. So I would just yank this out. What is MDF? Yeah, pretty close. I don't know if either were right. I don't hear very well, but it sounded pretty close. So medium density fiberboard, right? So what is your cost for a 32 square feet, which is one sheet? Where are you from? That's cheaper than us. You're closer to the Northwest. So closer to the Northwest you are, the more expensive it is. You got guys in Florida, you're paying about $40 a sheet. We're paying about $32 here. We're about $1 per square foot. The most expensive I've ever seen it in the US is probably $1.80 a square foot. If you double that up and drop like half your sheet, because they are 49 wide, not 48 wide, so you cut a 26-inch piece or a 25-inch piece and you have a 24-inch drop, you're going to lose half your sheet, but you can use it in bathrooms, backsplashes, any other random construction, false edging to make this type of edge that doesn't go all the way back. There's a lot of stuff you can do with your drops, but even if you did that, say you're the most expensive square footage and you dropped half of it and you doubled everything up, you'd be at $4 a square foot. I would say that it's much more profitable to yank everything out, build new, and you have brand new decking exactly how you want it. Now if the customer, if they say they have a set of cabinets like this and they want a countertop on top, you could give them a radius, you can give them anything. And then their neighbor, not an artist, guys. That's proof right there. Somebody said I was an artist yesterday. Wait till you see me draw. So you can give the customer exactly what they want. When you give customers exactly what they want, you can charge a lot. But I have seen a lot of people in this industry come here and work with us, and they go back out and they start underbidding jobs constantly, and then they tell you, well, my market's really depressed. And I'll say, well, what are you doing? And they start telling me, well, I just mostly pour over Formica. I do a single coat. I never pour twice. Don't fucking talk anymore, because I already know why you can't charge more, because you're not fucking charging your customer enough to do the job actually correctly. I would rather, even if I was doing it for 30 bucks a foot, I'd still probably rip out their Formica, double everything up, make a super sturdy countertop. I'd probably try to route an edge in it. And what's one of the main reasons I'd route an edge in it? What would you guys ever want to route an edge in a countertop? What do you think that does to your competition? Big time. What's your granite guy charging to actually route, let's say, a double waterfall edge and polish it out into your front edge profile? You can be about 30 bucks a linear foot. How much does it cost you to take a wood router and cut around that perimeter of a countertop you just built? 5 minutes and your bit will last 10 years. So if you really think about that, it was a very inexpensive thing you did. Whether hopefully the customer likes it, you want to definitely do what they like. But if they choose that, guess what happens when they go take your bid to the granite guy and say, yeah, I want this edge profile, I want this radius on the front of my countertop. The bar, I want it to have a radius because it matches the arch above it. And you start having a few options like that. I'm going to undermount my sink. The things that are very easy to do with MDF are not very easy to do with granite. So it makes you very competitive. So it's harder to compare your options. So I just want you guys to have that as an understanding of where I'm coming from when I try to tell you the rest of these things. I know that a lot of you guys are going to go and coat Formica. I understand that. If you're going to do that, do that. But it is going to be very hard for you to then go across the street, because what are your number one best, what's your best way you're going to get a job? Cheapest, easiest, and most trustworthy? Referrals, right? You come to a referral and they're like, man, this guy came out and did my countertops. He did a badass job. I trust him. You'll like what he does. You're not walking in, and the customer usually on that case isn't saying, well, I'm going to get a bid from him and her, so you better be fair with me or else I'm going to let you know and you're not going to get the job. That's what happens when they cold call you and they're calling everybody in the phone book, right? That doesn't happen. Well, nobody uses a phone book, so don't read too much into that. So just showed that I'm 40. I generally do, and I'm going to go over when I do that and when I don't too, because that's really important. So do you guys understand that? That is my perspective. You go across the street and then you tell the guy, oh, it's $55 a square foot, or as a lot of guys in the US are installing at about $85 a square foot. That's a good profit margin. You can do anything till the job's perfect. You can polish your countertops afterwards, seal them up, put diamond shield, whatever you need to, you can do. I always pour a decorative pour and then a clear with accents in it to hide any little mess ups I got in my first coat and adjust colors for the customer, right? I always would recommend some kind of front edge profile, some kind of cool cut for the customer, mostly to make it look cool and custom, but also to make it more competitive. So just a kind of a thought. It's going to be really hard then to go across the street when you just coated Formica for 30 bucks a foot and try to get double that, because they're going to kind of start figuring out, so you're adding some MDF. You're adding $400 with MDF and you charge me $3,000 for it. So to do the same exact process, it's very hard to raise prices. Yes, sir. That's fine. They're going to be turning the AC on and off because our AC guys can't seem to. They must be really good AC guys. They're not very good heater guys. Unfortunately, it's the same units. So yeah, they can do whatever they want to. So they turned it up 3 degrees and it went from 71 to 68. I think they went the wrong way. So there's your Formica. A lot of people spend more time cutting this backsplash off, removing it, cutting little strips, setting them in here, bondoing that. Does that make sense? They bondo it. Has anyone ever sanded with a DA sander up against a wall, a backsplash, and it's kicking into it? You never get a clean line, right? So then you're block sanding. Have you ever sanded with a block sander into a corner? Almost impossible, right? So you got to be kind of thoughtful of your process. That right there will take you more time than ripping the whole thing out and rebuilding. In that case, you may as well leave it on there and just let everybody know you just coated a turd. So that is my opinion of Formica. Tile countertops. Yes, sir.
Oftentimes, Formica can be glued down, so you have to methodically go really far.
Yeah, you want to be very careful. And that's the glue down Formica. I'm glad you brought that up. Sometimes you end up with a profile that's very easy to modify or add on to if they did the built-in place Formica. So old school houses have the Formica where they might wrap trim around the edge, right? That you can modify, but your standard Formica that just has the 4-inch splash is what I'm talking about that I would not coat. There's no way, no pattern you can ever do where we don't walk in a house and just know it's Formica immediately. And if your grandma paid $6,800 for Formica coating, you'd probably be pissed at whoever charged you that. So tile countertops are very common. Who has tile countertops in their areas? 3 of you. So you all do. So you just haven't been around the block very much. So, which is good if you're a girl. So, and a boy, it's just not viewed the same. So I have 2 daughters, so I just want them to beat everybody up. So, all right, front edge, tile. Generally you have 3/4 inch plywood, then they mud set backer board, right? They put mortar down on top of the 3/4 inch plywood. They set the backer on that. They'll shoot or screw the backer in through the mud into the plywood. Then they put more mortar down and they set their tile, grout their tile. And there's a few different ways. The way we're going to go over first is that generally they put a front edge capped piece of trim. Like if you're in Grand Junction, it's always a piece of oak trim and it looks like shit. So that is your most common stack. It's not all drawn to scale, I apologize, but that is very common what you see on a tile countertop, right? Has anybody ever removed tile countertops? It's a pain in the ass. Did anybody have an easy removal on a tile countertop ever? I never have, ever. And it's stressful. You're going to drop a tile on the floor and chip or damage their wood floor, or their other tile floor, or their laminate. And you're going to protect against it. It takes you a bunch of time, right? Then you're trying not to separate because all these screw heads tend to rust off so that you back that screw head and the screw head pops off, but it still leaves the threads, threading that actual sheet of plywood right into the face frame of this cabinet right there. Has anyone ever experienced that? So just because the screw head came out doesn't mean it's not bonded. Now you have nothing to get to. It's not a big enough gap to slide a Sawzall blade or anything else in there generally to separate it. If you do slide a Sawzall blade in there, which I've actually gotten to work sometimes, you'll slide a Sawzall blade up in here and it's pinching your blade and you'll shake those cabinets so bad the doors will fall off. So there's not a whole lot of great ways to deal with this. One amazing way to do it, usually you have a 3/4 inch drawer face right here. That means it protrudes 3/4 of an inch from your face frame of your cabinet, right? Your face frame of the cabinets is usually 3/4 of an inch. So you have your face frame and your 3/4 inch drawer, and then generally this oak is 3/4 of an inch. So unlike the scale you see here, usually you don't have any proper drip edge for the countertop edge to be out past the drawer face, right? So if you spill anything, it goes right in your drawer. And that's just easy because a lot of tiles are 12-inch tiles or whatever the way they do it, whatever common reasons. It usually comes down to financial reasons. You don't have a front drip edge and it looks like shit. You go down to the store, you get a piece of trim, you make sure this is sealed in real well with caulking or paint, something paintable. You can use certain types of adhesives or anything. It just needs to be paintable because you don't want to put a non-paintable coating like silicone down because nothing bonds to it. Then I would get a piece of trim, take an 18 gauge gun, figure out whatever edge profile you like that you think looks prettiest. You can even route or custom make a piece of trim, shoot it right to this face frame with an 18 or 16 gauge nailer, right? Now you have your proper drip edge. Everything's covered that you need. You can bump this up about a 1/16 of an inch above the highest tile. And the reason I say a 1/16, you don't need to be buying a ton of extra epoxy. You'll actually take the epoxy you do mix, you'll mix a very small amount at first, and you'll mix it to ratio, say a 1-to-1 countertop blend. So you mix 1 quart total, right? It'll be a pint of A, a pint of B. And then you're gonna add about a quart of gypsum powder, which is like 20-minute easy sand mud, right? Does anybody ever see that? 5-minute, 20-minute, 45-minute, doesn't really matter what it is. It's very inert. It's not gonna speed up because the epoxy does not activate that mud. So you're gonna have your same working time, but you're gonna end up with a peanut butter consistency product that has aggregate in it. And what we see is you can mix it about 1-to-1 pretty comfortably, and you end up, instead of pouring 2 gallons on your countertop of epoxy, you save about $100, the other gallon's gypsum. And the added benefit is epoxy will keep seeping through these tile grout joints. Even the dry stack stuff, it'll just keep seeping through. And then you'll have all these little fissures the next day that you're gonna have to patch with Bondo or something like that, or fill them before you can coat, because the epoxy just keeps seeping through. If you mix it with gypsum, the gypsum stacks up in that grout and totally seals it, and it kind of bridges that, so you can usually have a nice sandable, profilable surface. The biggest mistake I make a million mistakes, but one of the biggest ones I make in this case, I think my first time I did this, it was a decent sized countertop. So I mixed 2 gallons of epoxy in a 5-gallon pail, and I dumped another approximate 2 gallons. So I had about 4 gallons of mud, and I poured it down my countertops all equally and then started troweling it. I think I ended up troweling 3.5 gallons back into the bucket and setting it outside, and I probably had a half a gallon on the whole countertop. So start out very small, and what I generally do is I'm gonna mix a quart, add about a quart of aggregate. I'm gonna see how far down the countertop I can get. However far I get, I'm gonna know. Guess what? I mixed a quart of epoxy and I made it through half my job. I wonder how much I should mix again. So that's what I would generally do. So the other style of countertop, it's not quite, almost looks like somebody set a dildo on the counter. I don't know. So you'll never see a tile. This is supposed to be a bullnose tile. I know it doesn't look like that. That'll break your hip if you're old. So, but you always have these bullnose tiles that are bonded on there, right? So people always want to know what to do with this. Have you ever seen these where the grout is the same color? Why? This guy looks like he knows. Blue shirt in the back. I know my Cowboys guy knows. Yeah, why is the grout always different colors? This guy knows what?
Probably because they've fallen off and they've had to put them back on and regrout them.
Yep, you're in a rental house and you're like looking around. I've done a lot of like rental properties that we flipped or like went in and remodeled. And one renter had Gorilla Glue, one guy had Elmer's glue, one guy had silicone, one guy just had caulking and it didn't stick. And you'd see all these weird different grout colors. And you go down with a little mallet, and guess what? You're gonna put a piece of cardboard on the floor. If I had $1 for every time a customer said, hey, how do I fix a chipped tile out here? You don't chip it, just simple. How do I get epoxy out of my grout joints? You don't put epoxy in your grout joints. How do I get epoxy off my face frame? Well, fresh enough you can clean it with alcohol. Don't fucking put epoxy on your face frame. Learn how to mitigate that. Put a piece of cardboard down. Kick it along as you're working. If you knock this tile off and you don't actually catch it in your hand like you should, it falls on cardboard and you don't chip tile on the floor or gouge a hardwood floor. I would always rather go a tiny bit overboard for a customer, because for no other purpose, they see that you care about their property. It's pretty uncommon to be in a customer's house where that's not their #1 investment they've ever made in their lives. And I see a lot of contractors, and it pisses me off. They go in and disrespect some old lady's house, and she's probably on a fixed income. She might have had to try to pay it off when she actually had a job. Now she's retired. She's saving up her money to have you come in, and I fucking hate people that come in and say that's not my job. So if you take care of their property, I take my shoes off until they tell me to put them back on. If they tell me I can put them on, I'll usually run carpet protector. I don't really care if people like it or not. I also became very successful as a contractor, and I know that a lot of it was not my skill. It was the little tiny details like that mattered. And then all the people that I pissed off was my guys that would do shit. Literally got a call. Your guys took a bunch of epoxy they mixed for my driveway and they dumped it in the rocks on the side of my house. And I was like, that's a nice fucking house. And I'm like, there's no way my workers did that. Like, I just knew my guys that were on the job. They would have never done that. I showed up. Yep. They probably thought the people were too old to ever walk over there, and they just slowly tried to fill up their rocks with epoxy. It ended up flooding because they had matting down, filled up into the rocks, and we had like 10 square feet of rocks we had to like remove in a sheet and try to match rocks. And Usually your name only comes when you grow too much and you have idiots that don't care about stuff the way you do. Knock these off. Now what do you have when you knock this off? What is that? Yeah, you do, right? Where should we go from there? You know already. There's a movie that you look just like some dude from. He works for like the CIA and he kills freaking terrorizers, which makes you kind of cool in my book. I hope you'd kill a terrorist if they came in here. So I hope you wouldn't, because I'd want to kill them first, but if you didn't. So this is gone. What do you got? You got plywood to shoot to still, right? Get a piece of door casing, because door casing, you can go to all kinds of custom molding shops. You can get whatever type of piece of door casing, and you usually have inch and a quarter, inch and a half casing. Casing is usually wider than trim. So you throw a piece of casing on here and make sure it's prettier than that and straighter when you put it on. Who here has been in a custom trim shop in your town? You have? Have you always known about that kind of thing? I never realized that was really a thing. And then one time I was trying to get something done that was a really specific profile, and they were like, just go down here to this aspen leaf place. Went down there. I could not believe it was so cheap per board foot. If you ordered, I can't remember what it was. There was a minimum order quantity, and they cut me whatever I wanted immediately and as much as I wanted. So I can't believe, and that was when this town was about 80,000 people. Now I've checked with a lot of installers. It seems like every town has access to somebody that has, what is that called? The machine that actually you put the wood through? It's not a banding machine. It's a, what is this? Huh? Shaper. Yeah, shaper. See? It's a shaper. Should put me through one. Shoot that right onto the front edge. Shoot it slightly high. Do the same exact process with the drywall mud. Does that make sense? Never mix your drywall mud with water. It's always dry powder as an aggregate because it's very inert. If it's dry, add it into your epoxy. Because of past experiences. Never mix your drywall powder, your gypsum, your drywall mud, whatever we're talking about, never mix that with water. I should say it again from past experiences. We will have somebody leave and mix it with water, mix it with their epoxy, and then complain it didn't work. Yes, sir.
When you mix that, what's the consistency that you're looking for?
About peanut butter, and I usually find 1-to-1 is really good, but I also like to trowel stuff. So if maybe somebody's never used a trowel, they might want to run it a little bit soupier, and if somebody's really good with a trowel, they could probably do it drier than that. And yes, sir.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you got tile on the countertop, change that bull nose on front,
Yes, sir.
and then you get drywall powder,
Yes, sir.
mix it with your epoxy, then dump it on your countertop and level it out.
Yes, sir.
Will that level out like we was doing yesterday?
Not quite as much, but if you do warm it up, it will still self-level if it's 1-to-1. If it's a higher, and that, I'm glad he asked that, because if it is a thicker consistency than that, it's not going to self-level at all. 1-to-1's about as much as you can even get heat to help you self-level. The cool thing is you can torch it. Another thing is, if this is your grout joint right here, you're trying to fill the void. You're not trying to create a coating over the top. Does that make sense? So you're not looking at a coating that you're floating over the top. You're looking to actually cross trowel. If your tile grout lines are like so, you're not dragging your trowel straight across because it'll pull it right out of the grout joints. You're doing it diagonally, the same as you would with like grouting your tile in the first place. A grout trowel, the reason you end up with a depression in it is because it's rubber, so it actually sinks down in there. I would use a steel blade, go diagonally straight across the top, and you'll get a really nice look. Have a little putty knife, you can really clean stuff up. You also have a pretty good work time. One kind of important thing to leave to say on this, make sure you mix your epoxy correctly first. Your time, especially on something like this, the time you mix your epoxy is very important, because once you mix it with the aggregate, it's going to cure very slowly. So if you have undermixed product, you're going to have tacky spots in a filler. You can't sand that if it's high. So you want to make sure your chemical reaction has taken place, been initiated and mixed well first, and then you're going to add the drywall powder on top of that. Does that make sense? So, yes, sir.
So, do you ever have any bonding issues with that? I call it epoxy mud is what I typically call it.
I never had with epoxy, ever. Not if I clean my tile. He wants to know about bonding issues. Wash everything down with acetone or alcohol. I wash everything with alcohol, and I'll actually really let it set and scrub it into the countertop and then wipe it up with a towel to take all oil, grease, wax, anything like that. It's pretty crazy, especially we go over a lot of granite. A lot of our installers do. There's a lot of just oil-based granite sealers that you want to think, and you have no clue what people have put on their countertops. So washing it down with alcohol will draw any moisture out, and it'll also clean any grease. And did you have any other part to that question?
No, it was just that, just because I read things on these epoxy groups, and there's people saying, oh, you got to grind it down so you get the sheen off of tile and things like that.
Never.
I haven't, and I was just
I've seen thousands and thousands of them being installed, and I have never seen an issue if prepped properly, ever. I've even seen a lot that weren't prepped properly, and I've never heard of failures. Yes, sir. You had something? Okay. So is that simple? Does anybody have questions on that? Yes, sir.
I've got a question as far as bonding.
Okay.
So over here when we just cleaned up, the epoxy just peeled right off that plastic.
Plastic, it's amazing. You can peel it right off of it.
Okay, so when you're going over tile, especially ceramic tile,
You can't peel it off.
you can't peel that off.
Non-flexible, not oily, no oily residue on top. If you washed your plastic with acetone, you wouldn't be able to peel it back off very easily. So, and molecule structure too. So you got to think of how it bonds. So, yes, sir.
So when you're using the alcohol, does it make a difference if you wish alcohol to use the denatured alcohol or not use the regular?
Yeah, denatured alcohol is no better, and it's just much more expensive. So denatured alcohol costs 14 to 16 bucks a gallon. Yeah. Denatured will leave fish eyes when you spray it on a surface, whereas cheaper isopropyl will not. You can get 91 and 99% isopropyl for about $1.50 a quart from Sam's Club or Costco or any of those big box stores. Even at Rite Aid, you get it for $2 a quart, which would be like 8 bucks a gallon instead of 15 bucks a gallon. Sometimes you can get it down to about 6 bucks a gallon, so you're less than half price usually with using the proper stuff. You can also just pop the caps off of those bottles usually, screw your sprayer head right in the top. It almost always fits perfectly, and you have your spray bottle right there. So it's real simple. You don't have to buy spray bottles and everything. Yes, sir.
Well, unrelated, I have a backsplash. It's glass tile. Planning going over. Any issue with glass tile?
No, it's the same as ceramic or porcelain or anything. And we're going to go over our wall epoxy too. When we do walls, we'll show you how to do a panel or how to trowel too. So, and we're actually going to try, I'm hoping we can start today. We're going to trowel 2 bathrooms here. So hopefully you guys get a little hands-on some wall epoxy. It is a big class. So when we do with the wall epoxy, be kind of patient. We're going to probably push 4 groups through 2 bathrooms. So we'll have one group start it, the other group finish it, one group start the other bathroom, the other group finish it, and we'll be doing samples out here. So be thoughtful of that when you do it. Everybody pull out your calculators, which are your phones. Ha, our late lady. Wonder what that shit was. 10 o'clock. She probably was told by her boss, and I'm just being a dick, but I want her to be really nervous if she's late, so. She wouldn't be here if she was later. You'll know if she was late. You'll just never see her again. So, second day of work, you're late, you never see me again, unless we pass in town. So, give me square footage for these countertops. You're gonna do it your way, and then if your way was not correct, which maybe it's the best in the world, we'll do it my way. Do this math, girls. Round it up to the closest square foot. Sorry, this is set for my height. Do I need to? I don't think the Green Mile can see down this low where I walk around it. He probably has no clue the struggles I go through on a daily basis. Can't get in my truck. I'm hoping your customer doesn't do the math faster than you. Thank you guys for putting up with me, by the way. I know I can be a lot to take. What's that? Maybe. Who got 140? Something close. Oh, please. Is that my smartest guy in the back? No way. I have faith in you. I thought you raised your hand. I was going to be so... I'm like, I know that guy's smarter. He's Amish. Those guys are good at this. Who got 90? Who got 60-something? Who got over 100? About 108 or something. Okay, it's 90. Can you guys all just do something with me? Pull all your calculators out right now, and we're going to do this together really fast, and I'll show you. This is a countertop right here. This is all 25 wide all the way through here, right? Everybody type into their phones 120 plus 60 plus 42. 120, 60 plus 42. Add those up. Times 25. What do you have? Divided by 144. You have your square inches. Now let's get your square feet. There's 144 square inches and a square foot. So divide that number of 5,000 whatever it was by 144. What do you have? 38.5, right? Super simple. That's a different width right there, right? This is a different width. Now do 108 plus 96. What do you got? Times 36. Divided by 144? 51 plus 38. What do you got? 89.5, right? Was that simple? I either measure everything in inches or feet, not both. If you're measuring feet, if I'm trying to figure out how much is something to get to go across the room, I'm going to do feet. If it's a rough measurement. If I'm doing anything that's a little more intricate like this, I'm always just going to do inches by inches and know how many square inches are in a square foot, right? Now, as always happens on every customer's job, right? Every customer, you say, and tell me you haven't been here, how would you like your backsplash done? Oh, my husband does backsplash. You don't even have to measure that, right? I've heard that all the time, and you're like, oh, I'm pretty sure I talked to your husband, and he thinks that's stupid, but whatever. So, but do you want to measure right in front of her after she told you not to? Fear and Grand Junction, are women here? Holy shit, just don't measure. Probably drinking wine. I had a Better Business Bureau complaint. All I did to win was say, just refer to her complaint for me to win the dispute, and they judged in my behalf. She said, I know he'll tell you that I'm taking prescription pills and drinking wine all day, and that my pills create amnesia, and that I'm not fully responsible for everything I say on the job site. So that was a Grand Junction woman. I cleaned up my tools and left. I was actually pretty polite to her. So, how many square feet of backsplash do we have in here? I'm going to give you guys about 2 minutes to figure this out, and then I'll show you how we would know without measuring this backsplash, because we laid a tape measure down on our back edge for a picture, because pictures are freaking free, and everybody has a phone that you can snap with a tape measure on the background as a reference, so you can judge anything on the job site without going back out to the job site, right? Zoom in and look at how far down was that? You can get a lot of measurements like that, right? How many linear feet of backsplash do we have, or square feet, sorry. Want to know square feet of backsplash. She added it. Don't say it. Do not yell your number out. You just tell me this is a very average, whatever average is. And I'm just saying, I'll go over that. That's a really good question that's needed, but we need to know. Full backsplash. What do you get? It's a standard backsplash, standard to code. And I'm only being a dick right now because this has happened to me multiple times. And I'm like, oh, do I drive an hour and a half? Do I bid the job site unseen? How do I make this work? The average upper set of cabinets has to be 18 inches off your top height of your countertop, right? So whatever the top of your countertop is, you're supposed to have 18 inches between that and the bottom of your upper cabinets. That's 1.5 feet, 18 inches, whatever you want to do, right? So you're going to just do, because we already measured the countertop, so we know it's 36, 120, one additional 25, back down into the 60. You add 30, because this is a push-in stove, all slide-in stoves, almost every one of them's 30, into 42, right? I take that number, multiply it by 18. Now I know my length and my height. That's my square inches. I divide it by 144. Is that simple? Now I know my square feet. It should be 39 point something, right? Did anyone not get 39 point something? But now do you feel comfortable knowing how to do that? And if you snap a few photos, you could answer enough questions to where you would never have to drive back out to that job to bid that again or measure that. Yeah, and usually you'll have a stove, microwave come low, and then you have, yeah, and maybe a sink is higher or whatever. It usually averages out, and if you have a few photos, you answer those 1 or 2 square foot questions. But usually those square foot, and that's a very good point, but usually that square footage he's talking about is going to vary. That would have pushed this bid down to 36 from 39, or maybe it would have brought it up to 41, 42 at the most. But if you'd have bid 36, you wouldn't have lost your shirt on this job. So. Unless you put your tummy in the epoxy, which I did that too. So, and I had to take my shirt off. That was weird. I'm not the guy that walks around with my shirt off ever. So, and I was like, that is a lot. It's gonna be in my pants soon. Yes, ma'am. That's everywhere. Anywhere in the U.S. No, the space between the cabinet, the countertop, and the upper cabinets. If it was 4 inches, gnomes would be getting fucked over trying to cook. Oh, this is just if they wanted a full backsplash. And I apologize. If I wasn't unclear on that, I apologize. This is if the customer then said, I want a full backsplash. So, because that's very common. Now, what did that do to your job? It just went from 89 square feet, right, to 130 something square feet, right? That's very valuable. So, you just bumped it up. Now you're using 1/4 inch MDF, single sheet thickness. You can just put epoxy, brush it on each side of the joint, slide them together, let it cure overnight, and your joint's stronger than if you'd have double or overlapped seams and everything, right? So you'll see our whole panel in our entryway. Has anyone been through this entryway that's under construction? If you go through this entryway, our main wall panel that I'm going to show you guys, that's all just 1/4 inch MDF. We put down plastic on the floor because epoxy doesn't stick to plastic. We brushed all our edges and just pushed our sheets together, left it overnight. We could pick up the whole panel the next day and it wasn't breaking on the sheets, on the seams. So pretty simple, easy way to do this. Now, if you're working in a rural area where you don't want to drive a long ways to go back out and check, this is a real organized, super easy way to do it. Snap a few photos, lay your tape measure down for easy reference to answer any additional questions. I've done that before and then said, well, I know that known item is this wide because I see it measured with my tape. You can, like, I've seen where I measured tile because I was like, oh, those are 9-inch tiles or whatever the weird shit was, or 18-inch tiles. And then you're like, okay, well, that's the same tile over here, so I know the length on this wall to measure. And usually it's close enough for a bid. So it's not like you're measuring to go build and fabricate something, but at least you're not wasting an additional hour to go do that. So any questions on this? Yes, sir. No, that's good. What's
No, this is a question. One of the questions I came here to ask. So, if you've got a long backsplash, you just said to just epoxy in between and slide them together.
Yes, sir.
That's how you get your long.
Yes, sir. Yep. I have overlapped as well, but I've been doing all my showers and everything like that, just super simple. And it was better than having a heavier sheet that was double and overlapped seams and everything. I used to double everything up, overlap my joint, so you get stability that way. And I've never seen it any stronger than when I just butt the joints together with epoxy. So, no, that's prep. Like I'm gonna cut everything to sides and slide all the sheets together with that epoxy brushed on there and let it cure overnight. And then my whole panel's built. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Say, yeah, I usually use MDF. And the reason I use MDF is it's easy to cut, easy to form. Yeah, really smooth. If you sand it, you're not popping fibers off. I cannot count how many people have gone to cheaper particle board, and I don't know what they're saving like $6 on a sheet. And then they're having front edges pop out, and then they won't tell us what they bought, but they're like, my front edges are falling apart. Well, you bought cheap shit. So we've actually had people try to use OSB as their sheeting. Just don't even do your countertops so you can do them right. So, all right, let's go to the classroom. We're gonna do a sample before lunch. We're gonna come back and we're gonna trowel some walls, and we're gonna build a very big frame for a table. If there's anyone that does not want to do a sample, raise your hands right now. There's a few people that would like to build a form for a 20-foot boardroom table. 2 people? 3 people? Okay, if you want to build a form for a boardroom table, you're going to come in this office and you're going to start building it. If you don't do that, don't worry. Do the samples with Leah because you're going to have plenty of time to come back in there and see what we're doing. We're not going to pour it without you or do any of it without you. What's that?
What sample are we gonna do? I'm having
I have
issues
to
with
ask
my
her.
veins, so I want to get as much.
Nope, you will
practice.
make as many as you can.
Okay.
Yep, we'll do that then.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
It's not what we've done in here, but I was watching one of your videos.
Uh-huh.
When you did the ceiling
Uh-huh.
and you used the foam.
It's a fucking piece of shit. Worst thing I ever did.
Is it? How did you adhere it to the ceiling?
Silicone, and then I ran lags around the corners.
Okay.
So-
I was wondering, I'm like,
That was the most difficult thing I've ever
'cause
done.
I seen you formed it out and then formed it back, with the foam.
Yep.
Would you use MDF now?
MDF all day now.
How would you adhere it?
Silicone.
Silicone?
It's just
silicone?
lighter. And then I
glue
would
it right up?
use T braces, like for drywall. Push it in, shim it across, get everything nice and leveled out. When you pull it off in the morning, it'd be forever.
So you go in there and template it first and then.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, or even just measure if it's really clean, and maybe you make it a 1/4 inch big, and you just trim one side to fit.
Okay. Yeah, because I was watching, I'm like.
It turned out amazing.
do that?
It was
Yeah.
amazing. It was beautiful, but it was very difficult.
So you've been doing this for a while.
Oh yeah, I've never seen somebody mix color with epoxy until after we did. So almost 9 years ago, I went to World of Concrete and tried to show people how I had been mixing colors with epoxy and doing countertops, and I got mocked by every one of the manufacturers at the place.
Now everybody's doing
And all the companies now that are trying to compete with me, every one of them thought that was the dumbest idea they ever saw, and now that's all they do.
Because it's innovative.
Yeah.
And they're like, I stick.
I was
with what
fucking
I'm
making
used
money and saving customers time and money, and still being profitable and competitive as a company.
Okay.
So it was amazing to see like how much hate we got. So, and now everybody's like out trying to do their own play. Now a lot of companies even copy even our color names and everything. So yes, sir.
No,
Okay,
I was just gonna
I parked my truck out front. We're gonna pull the sawhorses in and we're gonna set them in that far boardroom table behind the glass. We gotta be really careful not to touch the windows. I'll let you look mature. You can be in charge of my keys, and I'm gonna come out and help you. I'm just gonna make sure they're ready.
I don't know what car it is.
It's the only one. Those will go too. This is actually the smaller truck. This is my Raptor. It's right in the front of the building. So yeah.
Okay.
I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
When you're butt joint MDF, or like when you're gonna glue that table together on the 45,
Uh huh.
what epoxy are you using?
Usually just countertop.
You are.
Uh huh. Yeah.
You have good adhesion on that?
Amazing. Yes.
What sample?
Do you want to do copper?
Yeah.
Well, which can you think of doing?
talk right now?
No, hopefully it's just gonna be in the front. So are you gonna help here? Okay, make sure you're loud and in charge and make
Help
it.
here or in there?
Hopefully, yeah. So,
Okay, perfect.
yeah.
And I was thinking this kind of until after lunch, but maybe for like the bathroom, we could do like a silver and pearl accent color. I wasn't sure if you wanted to try and do like accenting colors.
Let's
to
do
the-
black and white.
Oh, yeah.
Bring pearl, white pigment, and black, and charcoal and stuff like that.
Powder?
Black. We'll do both pigments and both powders.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I have tables made out of this acrylic.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's what we're gonna put in 1.5 inch acrylic in the table we're pouring in here.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
So it'll stick to this.
Oh yeah, very well.
I see.
Oh, yeah.
Even though the pens.
It won't bend once the epoxy's on there. So.
Do you want me there and here?
I don't know. Have you ever cast anything before? No. Have you done anything like that? You might want to help in here, and because you've seen us build forms, and that's all we're doing, and she's seen samples out here, so that's about it. So, and we're just building a form for a table, and then when you guys are done, then everybody will come and help us.
So
Yeah, yeah. I think she needs help on watching one side.
Should be back here or in here if I'm looking to build tables.
Building tables, if you're casting a table, it would be in here. If you're building a table like out of MDF and pouring, probably here. So, how did you sleep?
Great.
Did you?
Yeah. I fell asleep at like 7.
I hope you're okay with how obnoxious I am.
That's my life.
Sorry, it's in the middle of construction right here, but this has been my.
Is this the epoxy with the gypsum in it?
No, actually, we sanded all this, so we're just gonna leave it deglossed. It's not finished. We just kind of initially did a 20 on it just to knock the shine off because now we're gonna run it all the way up to 800, but I'm gonna wait till construction's done. So we poured this panel. This is all 1/4 inch MDF that we basically just laid all on plastic here, organized it all, pushed all the seams together. We didn't even use clamps or anything. Brushed epoxy and just made sure that it was all butted together nicely. And nothing. 1/4 inch MDF, you actually couldn't even probably fit a biscuit joiner in there. Yeah, so very thin. So you can see on the edge of the stack there. It's all very unfinished, so just so you guys understand, we are gonna finish this out better, but that right there is basically what the whole panel is, so. Yes, sir.
On like shower walls and countertops and things like that, you use MDF,
Yes, sir.
and I know you say you coat the back end, but you never had any problem with expansions.
I have never had a problem, not if I did it correctly, and I've always like roll and or squeegee the backside with epoxy so it's totally impervious to moisture. Even if I make a cutout, I'm gonna roll epoxy in there. Even if you just have 5-minute epoxy for cutout holes, that's fine, but you need it, so. She looks like a twin of a friend of mine. You- On this? Something like that, yeah. I didn't actually build it, so yeah. Yeah, Yep. So, well, I'm parked right out front, so, yeah, I keep thinking, I've looked at you so many times and thought this lady named Suzanne is here. And I'm like, oh shit, Suzanne's here.
Was it the Suzanne you kept calling?
No, this is Suzanne, I don't, that was just some random lady that I wanted to send, so.
See, I call her people I don't know Steve.
That's pretty awesome.
So Steve, Suzanne.
Especially if somebody has an attitude, I like to purposely call them the wrong name. Then, yeah, I'm sorry, dude.
Well, that's also good.
Nothing helps correct an attitude like them realizing they're not important enough to remember their name. Then my name's not important either, so. I used we leave you alone with all that. Look at this lady. The guys all brought one stick of firewood, and you brought the whole pile.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You just throw it wherever. You can just throw it right here. Yeah, thank you so much for doing that. We'll wait on that stuff real quick. We can even close that front door.
Where'd you get these at?
Home Depot. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. What's that, sir? We just have a faux painter. I just have a faux painter. It's a friend of mine that came and did it. She just did Ralph Lauren's house in Oak Comfort, so yeah. Uh-huh. She's really amazing. Maybe we can be closer. You're from town?
Yep.
Okay, cool. You have your own company?
Yep.
That's cool. Yeah, so I remember you now. I'm sorry, I need a lot of people. All right, now if we go to the back, we'll get all the trip hazards out of our way. Good morning, Hugo. Good to see you. Plastic? No, because we're gonna build forms, and if we drip something, we will pour in here, but we'll pour it in a form. Hey, man. Yeah, it was like 67 this morning.
Yeah, I that one got kicked. The one in the back got kicked because of smoke, maybe glitter, maybe dust. So I know how to reset that.
Okay. Is that something we can do?
Sensor. Yeah, I can show you guys, but I know how to do it now.
Dom?
I already talked to him.
Oh, did you show him?
Yeah, I showed
Okay.
him. Or I didn't show him, but I talked to him.
Well, take a fingernail off if he doesn't.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much, man.
And I'm gonna turn this one off when it's warm enough for you guys, so the sound is not as loud.
Okay for a while now, because warm mats are now, because it's so cold our epoxy won't work until they get it warmer.
I know. That's why.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Matt, for taking care of that. Really, I appreciate that. No, yeah, he might show you how to reset the unit. See, he said the one on the back was kicked off because of smoke.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we learn how to reset that, it would be amazing. Take care of whatever you got to do, and whenever you have time, just sometime. Sorry, guys. Oh, yeah, I got a beam saw if I need it. So I kind of planned on cutting that miter with the beam saw, but I don't know. Like, they were ordering 2x2 sheets, MDF, and I said, just order like quite a bit more MDF next time. You know, more. I think they had 3 bunks of quarter for a while. I was like, well, it didn't mean that much. But.
They have it on their website, but they don't carry it.
Yeah, that we special ordered it. Yeah. I'm gonna pass it off to somebody if somebody wants to. Yeah. Thank you, sir. I'm just gonna slide this right over to here. We can start carrying the sheets. Yeah, and carrying them through. 6 of them into that back room. And I cast that with a piece of trim, and we poured into it to trim that was shaped like that. So that's the first. We put trim that was shaped like that, and then we poured to fill it.
I figured you use like that purple foam or pink foam. Chipped it up and set it up there and into it.
Nope, we just did that.
How many sheets?
At least 6. Are you? Hey, Dom. To be honest, I haven't looked there to see what they stocked. I apologize. We have epoxy for them. Dude, it might be actually. I'm sorry. Be careful. I apologize, girl. Trip hazard here. Do you want me to?
Let's see, do you want to go vertical?
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Tom. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Just let me know, Tom. I apologize. Show up in the morning and carry wood half a mile. Good to see you today. Thank you, ma'am. Well, yeah, we need at least one more. We're gonna build it however we want to. It's ours. I think we're gonna have it longer though. Yeah, thank you though. So I don't want it too long, but I want it to be. Yeah, we're gonna overlap all the joints. Well, we just want to create a really flat sheet to cast on. So we're gonna double stack this, and then we're gonna put the MDF on top of that, so that we hopefully have a very level, very rigid form to pour into. Because we're gonna pour this and cast it. I've actually never done exactly what we're doing here, but I've done a lot of stuff like it, so it'll be a pretty badass table. I'm gonna grab a level and some tools and stuff, so if anybody wants to, they can come. How's it going, man? I'm excited to see. Wait till you see what we're doing there. I want to see. Give us a bunch of 1.5 inch acrylic that's perfectly and leave it all over, cut up, and then pour between it. So it'll either be really dumb or really awesome. Yes. And I'll grab some foil tape with you. You know what? I'm going to grab a cart and we'll throw all this on a cart. I'll grab that empty one there. I'll grab this empty one. Chop. I'm gonna grab some foil tape, some silicone. We'll grab that. Thank you. Oh, there it is. It's right in front of me. So I couldn't find it. Scissors, putty knives, and I'll grab the silicone. I'll kind of show you what we do with it. It's just we do a lot of things. Just this right here, and I see a caulking gun somewhere. Oh, here's one. Doesn't have to be fancy, and I'll grab batteries, and we'll push that in there. think I threw. I thought you hit his truck. I was gonna laugh. Thank you, sir. And then we'll lock them out. And then we got silicone. We got pencil.
Did you go to Mesa at all? Mesa Fit?
No, I don't.
No?
A buddy of mine just moved. He used to go over there a lot. His wife had dark hair. Yeah.
They moved?
Yeah, they just big.
Did you go, huh?
Yeah. I'm proud. I'm really proud of what they're doing. They've been working so hard at that, and they're doing. Oh, right?
Yeah, I'm like, cool.
Yeah, they're pretty good friends. They're good people.
Hunter and Cass. It's funny, it's like, yeah, I haven't seen him at the gym in a while. And there's a girl there that it's basically like she wants to be Cass. She dyed her hair the same color. She's tan like Cass, but she's wearing like the same kind of gear and stuff that she was wearing.
Right?
I'm like, are you trying to be?
Oh, there's a lot of people that want to be them, which is kind of sad that people just can't be themselves. Be happy with it.
This is basically a base for
Yep.
other stuff.
Yeah, just exactly. We're just trying to create something rigid so we don't. There's my narrow center. I'm gonna blow that way. Exactly. Yeah. I just want a nice long table. That looks about good. It's gonna be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. If you guys want to, and we can just kick it together. Sorry. And now, if you want to, I personally think we should throw one more set on here, overlap the joints, and then start throwing the melamine. Do the same thing with that. But the melamine will just do a single stack across the whole thing. So if anybody wants to do that, I'll leave you in charge of cuts.
You don't want to stick these first?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not
We'll
yet.
cut one in half and we'll do the exact same.
We're gonna need those.
You can even cut the half sheet back here if you want to, and just carry it half up. Yeah, I do. You can use the fest tool. Take too much time walking everywhere.
I like it.
Ah!
Sorry, we're right here.
I'm sorry.
Trying to
I thought I so had that, and then she stepped forward.
You're like, no.
How is it? That's definitely warmer. You're 70? Yeah. This was going to be my guess, but I thought I won't sound stupid. I'll just say 70.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So when you was doing the like the kitchen diagram, when you did the square foot, did you measure the length times the width or the width times the length?
Either way.
Either way.
Either way you did it.
And then how did you get the 144?
There, because I got all, it was like 300 square inches by 18 linear inches or 25, and then you end up with like 5,000 square inches, and then you have 40 inches in a square foot, so then you divide 144. So because there's 144 square inches in a square foot, that's what it came from. And that gives you your square feet. Thank you. Hey, what's up? Uh-huh. No, I'm not. Oh, maybe. Yeah, sorry, I've been trying to get all my ducks in a row. That's awesome. And now we'll start throwing that, yeah, the melamine now. And we wouldn't want to put that.
You bring the 4-footer up here. Make it less than 2 stagger. See what's that down.
That's exciting. I don't know what that is. I guess. People have their ways. You wouldn't believe every class man teaching them. Why did we do that weird stagger there? Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's fine. Nah, just throw it down. Here. If you keep turning, if you hold it up there, yep, there you go. Now we just let it down. You drop it. Guess we'll slide it down here because all these fucking cuts will end up being on one or almost on one. Now we'll just drop it up here and we'll set it to length. Sorry about that, guys. Wasn't sure what y'all were doing here. Yes.
So it doesn't have to be fully clean. Don't worry about that kind of stuff.
No. We'll clean stuff like that. We'll take a 5 and 1 right there, and we'll clean it up. And we're gonna still do some construction here, but. Give me a mark on top of I'm headed towards. That can be kind of.
That's like right on the edge.
There we are. There we are. You can take it. Sorry. Now we can pop this up and. Push it all the way up here. Now, let's make sure that your end and my end are really just kind of butted together.
Do you need to put tape in between those things? Though?
Yeah, we will. Just like we did out there. Okay. We just want to really make sure it's square before we go on to taping.
What kind of tape do you use for this?
I'm going to use Mylar tape. It doesn't bond to the adhesive or to the backing of the tape on this. So it's a lot better to have extra, in my opinion and experience. Now, the first one, if somebody wants to help me run this, we'll run staggered like this. The second one we'll run staggered like that. The third one we're going to do dead center and span the joint. You can just overlap that. Now really stick your side. Get your, nope, you're good. And now really stick your side, because I'm gonna, on both sides of it too. Because I'm gonna try to pull a little bit of pressure so we don't wrinkle it. Otherwise, if you don't pull a little bit of pressure, when you run across it, it has a tendency a lot of times to wrinkle on you. And so
That can't be sanded down. Wrinkles and stuff.
on the tape, you'd sand through the tape and then you'd bond to
No, I
it.
mean once it's set.
It's just, you could, but it'd be better just to not even have to deal with it. This is called Mylar tape. So now if somebody wants to do this, I'll go grab the impact. Whoops, see those wrinkles? So you know who I'm gonna let have help? You're in charge. She's gonna tape. What's that, ma'am?
Need that third layer on here, right?
Yeah, one dead center, and then we'll do the other seam the same. Then these pieces right here, we're gonna start running Mylar tape on the white side of this, not on the wood side. We're gonna run that Mylar tape all the way down this, and then just wrap it around the edge. Hey. Hey, Joe.
Then yeah, we can take care of them. What's up?
Did we call Samantha? I had to say non-camera. Thank you so much. What's that? Me? I have terrible elevators.
So do I. Yep, 95. Jamie should be coming around.
Not as hot as they are. Whatever you do, just make them do it real simple, so there's no. Looks good, guys. Yes, ma'am. If one reaches, span it with one. You don't need to double anything up like that. So normally what I would do is I would stretch it all the way down, stretch it from end to end, set it, stretch it, and then run it with it right down to the bottom of one piece, and then wherever it lands. I apologize, I didn't explain that right.
One piece.
Yeah, so I would generally, because we're not going to pour all the way up, and I did not explain that before I left.
Okay.
So if you hold that, now, nope, and that was my fault for not explaining that. I apologize. And our silicone that we caulk everything in with will span anything else. So
How big do you normally pour these?
totally whatever the situation. I mean,
You
has
don't have a standard you're gonna go with?
a lot of times you're going with the piece you're putting in there. So if you have a 1/4 inch piece of wood, you don't want to pour 2 inches unless you want it on the top.
Oh, okay.
But it's so situational dependent. We have 1.5 inches.
And there, you have the wood, so would you normally like go like twice the depth of the wood or something?
No, usually just as thick as the wood. Generally, yeah. And that wood wasn't gauged very well. One end was thicker than the other, so we just poured to the thicker end and left it.
Right, okay.
So.
Now that wood in there, sorry, I'm not,
No, you're good.
like, you put it directly on the melamine, or would you put something down first?
No, I'd put the wood directly on the melamine.
Put it directly on it and you
Uh huh.
pour over it.
Yes.
Okay.
You can be on this side.
Oh, sorry, I'll just be right here and right here.
We'll just go to this side. Bless you.
Joint. Depending on what side of tape you're pulling from, you can really pull tape crooked in the center. If it was a little, it won't matter. We can silicone it in if it wasn't perfect.
You don't, have to put on the screws?
No, because we're going to cast just on the inside of that or right on top of it. Normally you would, because that would completely bond your piece to the table. That's also why I'm not going to do in the center. I usually just clamp really hard on both sides of the joint like this. Yeah. What do you think so far? Oh, Levy. You're feeling greatness. Greatest moment in epoxy television. feeling any vertical separation from one side to the other. This right there. Arkansas toothpick? Yeah.
I never heard that.
Glad I'm not from Arkansas. Yeah, it does actually. I would like to back that out. Thank you. Got it. Toothbrush was? Really? I must have forgot about it. I'm kidding. I don't know.
That's why I call it toothbrush, not teeth brush.
But
Teeth brush.
I got you. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right, guys.
So I told my daughter, she's 4. I told her that don't leapfrog with unicorns joke.
Oh, that's,
She's like, why, Dad?
I know. You're like, well, we're not explaining it from there. We just tell you
My
not
wife's
to.
like, really? I'm like, yeah.
Learn implants.
Dad jokes.
Yes. My little girl. So,
How old are they?
I got a 6 and a 10 and a 8-year-old boy.
Down to the edge or no?
What's that?
You want this all the way down to the edge? No?
I don't. I think we may as well. I think I'm gonna just do that and then silicone it in. I don't. I kind of want a wider board room table, and we'll just silicone across the top of the screw heads. So
I mean, this edge, or you want to cut?
yeah, you'll butt it right into that, and we'll just do T joints or whatever on each one of these. So.
It'll grow back.
Yeah, and we'll just cut those and go. Well, you can run it if you want to. You can just go all the way around. Be careful with your fingers. That's all I care about. Safety third.
Safety third.
Yeah, as long as you're pretty square with your cut, you're fine.
Okay, is it depth already set on this one?
I wouldn't cut on top of this. I'd cut off
Well, I
the
was
end.
gonna pull it off the side.
Yeah, you should be. I would double check my depth on that. But you're probably good.
I guess if you're cutting off the side, you really don't.
I'm sorry, man.
My ridge is so far off on that. I just wanted to make sure. My bet's off.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just a skosh.
You're good to go. And just around. Right.
Yeah.
Thinking of the phone system. Which is probably
We'll clean this all off first with a leaf blower real quick, and then somebody else in charge of fingernails. I had real pretty ones last week. My little girl did pink nails, but I washed my hands in acetone and it all fell off. Try to keep as much of the foot traffic dust out of our way as possible. So now,
Down in Arkansas, we call that a digger sticker.
that knife?
That's not really nice.
Wow, no it's not. I lived in LA for a few years. You get killed for that. And I'd just be laughing. Yeah.
You're, of course, a little careful where you say it in Arkansas, too.
All right, now if you guys set those in the trim, if somebody wants to run this, you can. I want to run it close enough to the edge to where it's going to completely encapsulate this trim here. You don't want to be sliding this around too much on that here. You want to work it into the piece right here, like such. I'll leave this at least this afternoon. Several hours at least. So. Nope, not at all.
come back later and clean off the.
Yeah, as soon as we start setting this all together, then we'll have them do is whoever has that full tape, we'll run. Oh yeah, we'll run some strips on here and just kind of tack it on here and up into the piece without sliding this piece around too much.
You do that now or when it's set?
I do it right now. Yeah.
So you don't run a strip along the edge necessarily? You just
Never.
do vertical.
That's all I ever do.
So how long do you make the strips?
Oh, just long enough like that. Yeah,
Just
exactly.
do them intermittently?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, by the way. Let me show you something. Hey, man. How are you today?
I'm alright, how are you?
Was it the older guy or the fatter guy that said that? I like to remember. So I can mark them. So, no, that's perfect. Exactly. Nope, that is perfect what you just did.
So the film is for.
Just to make sure that that joint doesn't bond, because if you poured epoxy and it went into that joint, it'd just forever glue that for the melamine. I did that one time accidentally. It actually broke the tape. We use foil tape, and foil tape's not flexible, or stretchy. So it must have shifted a little, and it tripped, and the epoxy just poured down into that wood, and it was ridiculous. Like I should have just thrown the whole thing in the trash. By the time I finished it, I should have just thrown it away. And then, yep, and not that often. Like you hit like here, and then maybe the joint.
Okay.
And that'll be really helpful on the joint here.
Like 20 pieces?
Yes, ma'am. And then like if you span this joint, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, I have scissors right here. Yes, sir. Oh, who cut this? I thought Papa Smurf had lots of tricks. Yeah. As long as epoxy doesn't go through it, it's fine. We'll just tape that off. Don't worry about it, guys. That's perfect. Ooh, and if anybody has to go shit somewhere because it smells like it, you can always. It smells like one of my kids are in here. No, down this way, it's not silicone.
How old are your kids?
6, 8, and 10.
Straight age.
So fun.
So these walls here, you got made flat and then you still.
Not these. These I had a faux painter come and just do because I just wanted a real simple concrete. And but the ones that wall there, I poured this on the floor and just stood it up, which turned out fucking awesome. I love that. Thank you for what you're. Hey, thank you so much for how hard you're working and taking care of all these. I know you are. We're gonna.
We'll get through
I
it.
guarantee in another few weeks we'll be like, oh, God.
I know, we'll get some breather room.
Yes. Hey, Joe. Sorry, I had so much nasty on my fingers. We will need. I've been getting asked a lot about orders. A lot of people want to place them. So I think tomorrow. I'm not gonna let anyone today. Tomorrow afternoon, we probably should have 2 people in the office in there and they can be working on their stuff, like with their customers and taking care of it. I'll just start sending customers in so that we don't get hit because. Is it green? Good.
You silicone these two?
Somehow, either you run it up the joint or run it in the joint prior, whichever you feel most comfortable with. Where are you from again, ma'am?
Me?
Yes.
I live here.
You live here?
Me, County, and so.
That's right. I apologize. I remember you.
You have a lot of people to keep track of. Do you want that?
Oh, Levy, watch your pants, guys.
They foiled it all in. Sorry about
Oh, you're good.
Pushed through and it's sad, but
Do you need anything on the corners?
Yeah, we'll wrap around the corner to hold it in. What do you need?
Or we can scoot this down, so the reason why it's short down there on the end is that
Oh, we're not worried about the length, guys. Let's just get it square because this is just our dimension. Whatever we build is fine.
This silicone off before we put this on the corner or no?
Yeah, if you can, take all the excess off and let me run. I'll run down there. This lady has attention to detail. Most guys are really fucking pathetic at trying to get stuff done accurately. And they talk. It's still just men. You should are like, how can I get paid? When can I get this customer's paycheck? Women actually care and do it right. And I see a lot of dudes don't have any respect for a woman doing something, and they won't even talk to our staff. How many times do you see that? And then they ask a question, and I'm like, well, just so you know, the girl that was trying to help you, that you were too good for, knows 10 times more than you'll ever fucking know. So have a nice life. Have fun being dumb.
hey, did you
Cantaloupe.
catalogs?
Oh, I think any kind of shit like that could be really valuable to like,
Throw some brochures in too.
and just,
That
and
was
I,
kind of my thought on it.
and I might just leave them out
Yeah,
and be like, oh shit, yeah, I don't know. I mean, talk to Simon.
yeah,
I should be.
for now.
If you don't get off the phone with somebody important in the next 10 minutes, we're good. What's the name?
We leaving this?
You know, don't worry too much. I know we want to get this pretty good, but it is very common for us to square and cut the table up afterwards so you get all those really fresh cuts.
Okay, watch it. Should we pull this back to the edge?
Well, the closer, if you are closer to that edge the whole way down, it's going to be easier for you to form it and do anything. So, yeah. Yeah, I'll try to keep it within a 1/16 of that edge all the way down, just because it's that easy, so easy to slide it into place. You might, just for not pushing it all over the place. Yeah, you're right. And where are you from again? Me? Yeah.
I was from Dallas Fort Worth area.
Oh, this is kind of pretty. What's that, ma'am?
Where did you wash all these off?
No, where? Wipe it down. No,
Oh.
just wipe it.
Where's the garbage? I toss this or it gets sold.
You just toss it on the bottom of the cart. Now the big thing with this is if it's not watertight, it's not epoxy tight. So
It's not watertight?
if it won't hold water, it won't hold epoxy. I'll get one for you. I'll get a good one with some alcohol. I need the steel rags and
Use
alcohol.
that yellow, the yellow thing.
Oh, grab rags too, because we have a lot of stuff to clean up. Silicone, like all.
Do you need more? Or is that?
Oh, this is good enough. Huh? I know. I think we're good. The old guy won't let us help. The old guy won't let us help. You're totally good either place. Well, we cannot reach in there.
With this one carbon, would it be okay to use that Mylar tape inside?
No, I would just run just like that. Just tack it to the outside and you'll keep it. You can keep it in place with it. Well, I was trying to get you a piece of alcohol soaked rag. Yeah. You might just have to run another longer piece, guys. Don't. It's not the end of the world. Cut a longer piece and stick it on there. Clean off whatever excess silicones. Keep it from sticking right here.
Does the Mylar create a stronger, tighter seam on the bottom?
No, not at all. Just never let epoxy pop to it. Yeah. So.
Are we taking this to just run along the edge or no?
No. Just to clean up any. Just want to clean up any.
Should this
Wow.
go back?
Yeah, it should.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want the end down there measured so it's pro, or are we gonna cut the end?
Say again.
You want the end measured down there so it's
Oh no, we'll cut after we pop. Have to get cut. So. I don't know. I wouldn't. It might be real finicky for a minute, girls, until the silicone sets, and you want it like that, easy to slide as soon as it sets. You just take your hands off.
Do you find that these pieces are warped sometimes?
It's not that bad. This is MDF, and I usually use PVC. I went to the wrong store today. I went to Lowe's instead of Home Depot, and Home Depot has a lot of PVC trim. Lowe's only had MDF that was good. Yeah, and just use more tape, guys. If you have a hard time getting this to stick and stay in place, we can use a mile of that tape if we need. So.
That made that one turn out really good.
Hey girls, see how that's all just silicone and it's 3 inches long and it's stuck at all? That one you just go back, get a longer piece, stick it on. So. We don't care how much of this we use, but we do need it bonded. Sorry, I can't.
I have long nails if you want.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's all. If you hold that on, thank you, by the way. Are you from here?
My parents crossed here.
Okay. Are you close to them?
Yeah.
Where in Georgia again?
Gainesville?
Okay. That's really pretty out there.
Beautiful.
I like that. I wouldn't want to live with people. It's different, but I love the scenery. Have you been to Pennsylvania and all that?
Yeah.
That's so.
Born in Virginia. So
Oh, really? I think that's so. Yeah, this is Mylar. We're just trying to overlap all our seams and create a really because we're gonna cast this. So however level we are now, it'll be the top of the table. That's gonna be as.
So the top is actually gonna be facing down.
Yeah, I mean, the style we're pouring probably wouldn't matter based on what we pour, but usually your top's not gonna finish out quite as easy as if you weight everything down on the bottom, do your finish on the bottom, and then flip it over. So, yeah, and then your bottom can be nice, but it doesn't have to be perfect finish to still look good.
So you did three sheets here to kind of overlap the seams.
Yeah. This is melamine, and this is just OSB. Melamine's a pretty awesome board as far as epoxy not adhering to it. You sir? Yeah. You know what? Let's just get some. Oh, thank you. Just alcohol. I use alcohol for everything. Tito's. Mostly Tito's. See this here on the top?
I was just gonna tell you.
Throwing a piece of tape on.
Just push it down and tape it.
Yeah, I've never had a class be this careful with accidentally using an extra inch of tape. I mean, I'd wrap the fucking thing 30 times if I had to. See that? That'll be absolutely perfect.
16 inch. Take it off, redo it all.
Yeah. You know, there's a good chance we can squaring it back up again. If you guys want to, we can really start cleaning up all the sawdust and if somebody with good eyes wants to inspect all the way along that inside corner, we need to make sure we don't push the trim. We'll be very careful touching it. We don't want to slide it either way because it's been set in place, and we'll push that silicone. So if you're not, make sure you don't touch it.
What about these screw hooks? Is that cool?
We'll fill those with silicone.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you can. We might sandwich this piece here with alcohol, wrap a piece just like I did down there.
That's just to keep the epoxy from
Yeah, and keep them from like staggering. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want me to have them like finish up?
Yeah.
Ready right now?
Yep, we need to finish up right now. And we're about done too, and we'll all head to lunch. Let's just kind of have somebody inspect around the whole side. If you check your area, remember that if it's not watertight, we're not good. So we're gonna head to lunch. You do look just like, you guys know who he looks like. Some actor, he plays in all the like terrorist killing movies. Like, I usually like children's movies, but if you're gonna slaughter fucking jihad, I'll watch that shit all day. So. I love watching that on a plane when you're flying out of India or like Saudi Arabia, and you're like, whoa, you guys have this movie on the plane? Yeah, it's sort of, I've been very uncomfortable watching movies before. I'm like, why do you even have this on your airline?
Like, was it 13th Hour? Is that who you're talking about?
He probably is, and he's like, I'm not gonna say. Probably him. He knows exactly who we're talking
Which is,
to.
I think, is the guy from Office
Right.
without a beard.
13th Hour actors.
That's Jim Halpert from The Office.
Yeah.
That guy,
Him.
he's in
Maybe. I don't know.
he's got more hair. That one, four.
My attorney will be contacting you shortly and working out all the details. Period. Thank you so much for everything up till now. Period. I thought he had contacted you earlier to resolve everything. I apologize that he has not. Period.
I told my wife that you referenced the other guys the last time we were here.
Yeah.
That's her favorite movie.
The other guys, I love that movie too. That is a funny movie.
Well, you said it yesterday too. You said you gotta let the peacock fly.
Yes. All right. As soon as we're done, guys, let's check because once the silicone sets on here, we're not going to be moving it. So we do have to make sure it's pretty clean. Corners, seams, sealed to the base. Well, we will, but we're going to wait until the come through the rest. Right. Okay. Huh? Lunchtime?
No.
Oh, somebody personal.
Oh, okay.
No.
Who did I forget to get in touch with?
No. That was something personal.
Yeah, so I heard that and I was just like running through my list.
Yeah, no, I should have. Hey, do you have my keys?
Sorry?
Do you have my keys? We're ready, guys. Let's jam. Do you happen to? Oh, you don't.
Oh.
Does somebody have my Raptor keys? I apologize. Oh, you do. Thank you so much. Yes. Do you have anybody?
I don't think so.
We'll
Yesterday I did.
do you have the Denali?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just ride with her.
Cool. You going this way?
We'll just ride with her. Hold on. She has room in the Denali.
Grab my jacket then. I'll
Okay, thank you.
You wanna drive with me?
Hey, I'm gonna grab my sweatshirt. Everything good here?
Huh?
Everything good here? I just texted him and said,